Lisa had always been independent and strong-willed, but after meeting Karen, she began to explore a bolder side of herself. Karen was the kind of friend who encouraged Lisa to take full control of her life, including her marriage to Tom. Over breakfast at a charming bistro, Karen planted the seed of a plan that would change everything. "You deserve more, Lisa. You shouldn't settle for less than what you want," Karen said with her penetrating gaze and persuasive voice. Influenced by her friend's words, Lisa began to contemplate an audacious plan to take complete control of her husband and explore new possibilities before fully committing to motherhood. That night, while Tom was at work, Lisa spent hours planning every detail. Sitting at her dining table, the soft light from the lamp illuminated her determined face. She scribbled notes in a notebook, listing the pros and cons of her decision. "I deserve to live fully," she thought, staring intently at their wedding photo on the wall. To set the stage, Lisa decided to create the perfect night for Tom. She spent the entire day in the kitchen, preparing his favorite dinner, homemade lasagna, arugula salad with caramelized walnuts, and a triple chocolate cake. The table was impeccably set, with scented candles and an aged red wine that Tom loved. When Tom came home, tired and unprepared for what was to come, he was greeted by the welcoming aroma of his favorite food and Lisa's seemingly loving smile. "I made your favorite dinner," she said with a glimmer in her eye. Surprised, Tom smiled back, feeling momentarily relieved from the stress of work. As they dined, the conversation flowed easily. Lisa talked about her day and asked interested questions about Tom's work. He, in turn, relaxed and enjoyed the unusual attention. But deep down, he sensed that something was different. Lisa was being overly kind, almost as if trying to soften an imminent blow. After dinner, Lisa suggested they sit in the living room for coffee. She held her cup with trembling hands, nervous about the revelation she was about to make. "Tom, I need to talk to you about something important," she began, her voice serious. Tom, still savoring his coffee, looked up intrigued. "Sure, honey. What's going on?" he asked, trying to hide his growing apprehension. Lisa took a deep breath and started explaining her plan, carefully influenced by Karen. "I've been thinking a lot about our life together, and I feel there's something I need to do before we commit to a family. I want to explore other experiences, meet new people, just temporarily," Lisa said, choosing her words cautiously. Tom was silent, absorbing each word with a mix of shock and disbelief. "You're saying you want to sleep with other people before we have kids?" Tom asked, trying to stay calm. Lisa nodded, feeling a wave of relief for finally speaking the truth. "Yes, I think it will be good for us in the long run," she replied with wavering confidence. The revelation hit Tom like a bomb. He stared at Lisa, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and betrayal. However, he decided to keep his composure, at least for now. "I understand. I need some time to process this," he said, slowly getting up and heading to the guest room. Lisa watched him walk away, heart racing and mind in turmoil. She knew the true test of her plan was yet to come. If you like following stories, reports, and surprising revelations seen on Reddit, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. The dinner ended unexpectedly, but Lisa was determined to move forward with her plan. She spent the next morning reviewing every detail with Karen, who was more than willing to help. "You need to stay calm and stick to the plan. Tom will understand eventually," Karen advised with her characteristic confidence. That night, Lisa decided to create an even more welcoming environment to ease the situation. She prepared a special breakfast for Tom with pancakes, scrambled eggs, and fresh orange juice. "Good morning," she said softly when he walked into the kitchen, still half asleep. Tom looked at the set table and sighed, realizing the effort Lisa was making. "Good morning," he replied, sitting at the table. "We need to talk about last night," he said, getting straight to the point. Lisa nodded, trying to hide her anxiety. "Of course, Tom. I just want you to understand that this isn't about you. It's about me and what I feel I need to do before we commit to a family." Tom took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I get that, Lisa. But I can't ignore the fact that you're asking for something that goes against everything we believe in as a couple. This is very hard for me," he said, his voice full of emotion. Lisa reached out and touched his hand gently. "I know it's hard, Tom, but I believe this will make us stronger in the end," she replied, trying to convince him. The following days were a mix of tension and attempts at normalcy. Tom tried to stick to his daily routine, while Lisa planned her first night of freedom. She talked to Karen every day, seeking advice and reassurance about her decision. You're doing the right thing, Lisa. Tom will realize that in time, Karen would say with her confident voice. Finally, the night came. Lisa dressed carefully, choosing a dress that highlighted her curves and applying makeup precisely. She looked at herself in the mirror, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. You can do this, she told herself before leaving the house. Tom, who was sitting in the living room watching TV, just watched silently as she left. Lisa met Karen at a busy bar. The two women laughed and talked while watching the crowd around them. Are you ready? Karen asked with a mischievous smile. Lisa nodded, taking a sip of her drink. Yes, I'm ready, she replied, determined. Soon after, two attractive men approached. Steve and Mark, Karen's co-workers, were just the distraction Lisa was looking for. The night progressed in a blur of laughter and flirtation. Lisa felt alive, free from any restraint. She danced with Steve, feeling desired and powerful. Mark, for his part, couldn't take his eyes off her. When Karen suggested they go home, Lisa decided to take Mark with her. Let's continue the party elsewhere, she said with a seductive smile. Back at her house, Lisa and Mark entered, laughing and kissing. The euphoria of the night enveloped them, and they didn't notice Tom's presence, who was hiding in the kitchen, watching everything. He had decided he couldn't just ignore what was happening. He needed to see it with his own eyes to believe it. The scene before him was a devastating blow, but Tom kept his composure. The next morning, Lisa woke up next to Mark, feeling satisfied with the experience. She quietly got up and went to the kitchen, expecting to find Tom. However, the house was silent and empty. Entering the guest room, she noticed that all of Tom's things were gone. On the bed was just a short note. This is what you want. I'm leaving. Tom. Confusion and realization took hold of Lisa. She ran through the house, looking for any sign that Tom might have left something behind. But he had taken everything. What have I done? She thought with a lump in her throat. She picked up the phone and called Karen, but her friend didn't answer. Alone in the empty house, Lisa began to understand the gravity of what she had done. What Lisa thought was a small change in dynamics turned into a complete separation. Tom interpreted her words as a request to leave the house, and now she was alone, facing the consequences of her actions. The sense of power and freedom she had experienced the night before vanished, replaced by a deep and overwhelming emptiness. Tom's initial reaction to Lisa's revelation was a mixture of external calm and internal storm. He emotionally distanced himself, trying to process his wife's devastating proposal. While Lisa went out to explore her new freedoms, Tom took refuge in the guest room, a decision that seemed like resigned acceptance but actually hid a silent and strategic plan. The day after the revelation, Tom decided to keep himself busy. He started spending more time at work, arriving early and leaving late, avoiding contact with Lisa as much as possible. His colleagues noticed the change in his behavior. Is everything okay, Tom? His friend and co-worker Mike asked. Tom forced a smile and replied, Yeah, just some problems at home. As Lisa prepared for her first night of freedom, Tom was already formulating a plan. He knew he couldn't bear to watch his marriage's destruction, so he began making quiet preparations. He opened a new bank account and transferred part of his salary there, ensuring he had separate funds. Additionally, he started looking for apartments to rent, preparing for the possibility of leaving the house. On the night Lisa went out with Karen, Tom decided to closely monitor the situation. He installed a tracking app on Lisa's phone, something that made him uncomfortable, but that he justified as necessary for his emotional protection. Sitting in the guest room, he tracked Lisa's every move, seeing her leave the bar and go home with Mark. The tightening in his chest was unbearable, but he knew he needed to stay calm. When Lisa brought Mark home, Tom was in the kitchen, hidden in the shadows, silently observing. He saw the two enter, laughing and kissing, and felt a mix of anger and sadness that almost made him lose control. But he remained firm, knowing that reacting impulsively would only make things worse. Instead, he waited until Lisa and Mark were asleep before starting to pack his things. Tom worked silently, packing his clothes and personal belongings. He took only the essentials, leaving behind anything that could be replaced. Each move was an attempt to maintain control over a situation that seemed to be falling apart around him. By dawn, he was ready to leave. He left a short note on the bed, explaining his decision. This is what you want. I'm leaving. Tom. Lisa woke up hours later, still intoxicated by the previous night's euphoria. Upon seeing Tom's note, she felt a chill down her spine. She ran through the house, calling for him, but the house was silent. The reality began to slowly seep in, and she realized that Tom had taken all his things. The guest room was empty, and the absence of his belongings made the house feel strangely deserted. In shock, Lisa called Karen, who finally answered. "Karen, he's gone. Tom is really gone," she said, her voice trembling. Karen tried to calm her, saying that Tom was probably just trying to scare her and that he would come back. But Lisa knew it was more serious than that. The determination in Tom's writing showed that he was committed to moving on. While Lisa tried to make sense of everything, Tom was moving into a temporary apartment. He found a small, furnished place, far enough to avoid accidental encounters. The loneliness of the new environment was overwhelming, but he knew it was a necessary step. Deep down, he felt a mix of relief and sadness. Relief for not having to watch his marriage's destruction up close, and sadness for the loss of the relationship he once valued. The physical distance provided Tom with the clarity he needed. He began reflecting on the signs he had ignored, the subtle changes in Lisa's behavior, and how everything culminated in the devastating revelation. "I should have seen this coming," he thought, sitting in the empty living room of his new apartment. But instead of sinking into regret, he decided to focus on how to rebuild his life. Lisa, on the other hand, was facing a new reality. Each day without Tom was a reminder of the magnitude of her mistake. She continued going out with Karen, trying to maintain a facade of normalcy, but Tom's absence was inescapable. Mutual friends began asking about him, and each question was like a direct hit to her conscience. She began to realize that the decision to explore her freedoms had cost more than she was willing to pay. While Lisa faced the consequences of her actions, Tom found the strength to move on. He redoubled his efforts at work, seeking projects that kept him busy and away from painful memories. His colleagues, noticing the change, offered support and understanding. Mike, in particular, became a constant source of encouragement, reminding him that he wasn't alone. As the weeks passed, Tom began to see a light at the end of the tunnel. He started exploring new interests, rediscovering hobbies he had set aside during the marriage. He frequented a gym, joined running groups, and even started attending social events. Each small achievement was a step towards recovery, and the sense of independence grew each day. Lisa, meanwhile, was feeling the weight of her choices. Each day without Tom was a painful reminder of her decisions and their consequences. She stopped going out with Karen, realizing that her friend's advice had contributed to the destruction of her marriage. Lisa began spending more time alone, reflecting on her choices and trying to find a way to correct her mistakes. One night, while alone at home, Lisa decided to try contacting Tom. She typed a long, regretful message, apologizing for her actions and begging for a chance to talk. "Tom, I'm so sorry for everything. I made a terrible mistake, and I'm willing to do anything to fix it. Please give me a chance to explain," she wrote. But when she tried to send the message, she realized Tom had blocked her number. The reality that he had truly moved on hit her like a blow. Lisa felt a deep despair realizing she no longer had access to Tom, that he had cut all ties. She tried finding him on social media, but he had blocked her there too. Not knowing what to do, Lisa went to his workplace, hoping to talk to him. But when she got there, she was informed that Tom had transferred to a branch in another city. Lisa's last hope disappeared. As the days passed, Lisa began feeling the weight of isolation. She lost contact with many friends who sided more with Tom than her. Even Karen, who initially supported her, started distancing herself. Lisa felt she was paying a price too high for her impulsive choices. Each day without Tom was a painful reminder of everything she had lost. Meanwhile, Tom was beginning to adapt to his new life. Moving to a new city brought new opportunities and new friends. He found a new balance and started opening up to new possibilities. Although he still felt the pain of betrayal, Tom was determined to move on and build a better life for himself. He started going to a gym, resumed reading books he had set aside, and even enrolled in a cooking class, something he had always wanted to do. Lisa, on the other hand, started attending therapy sessions to deal with her feelings of regret and loneliness. Therapy helped her understand her mistakes and the importance of taking responsibility for her actions. She began working on herself, trying to find peace and acceptance. But the road to recovery was long and painful. Tom and Lisa's lives took different paths, each trying to find their own happiness. The lessons learned were hard but necessary for both. They realized that respect and communication are fundamental in any relationship and that impulsive choices can have devastating consequences. Tom and Lisa's story serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of valuing and respecting those we love. Karen continued to support Lisa, saying that Tom would eventually come back. "He needs time to understand that you're doing this for both of you," Karen insisted. However, Lisa began to doubt this perspective. She felt that something was very wrong and that things were out of her control. During a work meeting, Lisa, Steve, and Mark received divorce papers. Tom had not only decided to separate, but had also presented evidence of Lisa and her co-workers' inappropriate conduct. All were fired due to misconduct. Lisa felt the ground disappear under her feet. The situation she thought she could control was rapidly and irreparably falling apart. With legal proceedings underway, Lisa, Steve, and Mark faced a series of legal consequences. They were accused of inappropriate workplace behavior, and Steve and Mark's spouses also filed for divorce. The lives of everyone involved were in shambles, and personal and professional difficulties piled up. Lisa tried contacting Tom to resolve things amicably, but he blocked all her attempts. Each passing day, Lisa felt more isolated and desperate. Karen, who had once been her biggest supporter, began to distance herself, realizing the severity of the consequences her suggestions had caused. Lisa finally began reflecting on her actions and their consequences. She realized she had been negatively influenced by Karen and that her impulsive decisions were destroying her life. She tried reaching out to Tom to apologize and seek reconciliation, but he continued to ignore her. Each blocked attempt at contact increased Lisa's frustration and regret. She began to understand the seriousness of her actions and how she had underestimated the gravity of the situation. Her life was in ruins, and she felt she had no one to turn to. Karen tried to maintain hope that everything would resolve, but the reality was becoming unbearable for Lisa. During a visit to the supermarket, Lisa encountered former co-workers who looked at her with disdain. News of her behavior and the legal consequences had spread, and she became a subject of gossip and scorn. The public humiliation was intense and constant. Lisa began questioning her decisions and the motivations behind them. She felt betrayed by Karen but knew the ultimate responsibility was hers. Her confidence was shattered, and she began to understand the depth of her mistakes. While Lisa dealt with the consequences of her actions, Tom moved on with his life. He found a new balance, away from the toxicity of his previous relationship. He focused on his work and rebuilding his life, finding peace and happiness in his new routine. Lisa, in turn, deeply reflected on her choices and the lessons learned. She realized the importance of respect, honesty, and communication in a relationship. Although she had lost a lot, she decided she needed to rebuild her life based on these lessons. She started therapy and found support in a group of people who had gone through similar situations. Tom and Lisa's story serves as an example of how impulsive decisions can have devastating consequences. Both follow different paths but learn the importance of being true to themselves and others. What other inspiring stories will be shared? Continue watching our channel for more compelling stories. If you enjoyed following this story, don't forget to leave a like. And if you want to follow more stories, reports, and surprising revelations seen on Reddit, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. It will be a pleasure to have you with us.